All right, Jesse on Fire, welcome back to the channel. Now, obviously, I didn't mention this in my video yesterday, but I'm obviously not at home. Okay, this is Gabrielle's mom's house. Those of you who were on the live would know that, but those of you who just watched my video wouldn't. So let me just throw that out there. Anyway, so one thing I wanted to talk about here that, well, just let me actually lead off like this. First of all, if you like the content, subscribe and ring the bell. My sub base is just slowly but surely doing this. And we're going to take some action to try to make it go a little bit faster. We'll talk about that another time. Conor came out and tweeted, and I want to talk about that. That's going to be the basis of this video. It's going to be what that tweet revealed about Conor and Khabib, the differences between the two guys, and the two GOATs. Because that tweet shows you got two GOATs, okay? Two GOATs. Different things, but two GOATs. And we'll talk about it. But first, I want to talk about this. If Khabib really retires, that sucks, man. He's awesome to talk about. You know what I mean? Like, for what I do, he's awesome to talk about. So not having him there sucks. You know, that's not ideal. But I honestly, I'm going to say this again before I get into the Conor thing. I said it like, my initial reaction was just like everyone else's. He said that he's retiring because his mother asked him not to fight without his father, and he said he had to do it one more time. By the way, let's talk about that real quick. Let's just tangent city. Think about that, okay? So, you know how much family means to this guy, right? His father dies. His mom asks him not to fight anymore. He knows for his legacy, he has to fight one more time. And this is the thing, like when you think about a person's legacy, generally you think about the people that he fought, right? And what do each of those people represent? Okay, they represent a challenge that a person overcame, right? They proved that they were the best man that night. They overcame a challenge. Most of the time, when you look back on people's career, that's it. You're just like, how good was that fighter? How did he beat him? Etc. Right? I'm going to challenge people to look at this with the added layer of consideration of what was actually happening. Okay, Khabib had a broken foot. That's actually like the last thing. But this guy's head coach and father died in July, man. In July, he ran his own camp. He had to deal with that emotionally. He was fighting his toughest opponent ever, and his mom asked him not to fight anymore, and he knew he had to fight one more time. And he's like, he fights the worst matchup under those circumstances with a broken foot, and then puts in that performance. Now listen, and I would challenge everyone to do this. Go back and watch. So I was so tied up in the fight when I was watching it, just in terms of like what's going to happen, that I didn't, like, you have to watch it again. Watch that fight again, thinking to yourself what Khabib is fighting for. Like, just watch it through that lens, that Khabib is fighting for his father, right? Like, for his father's memory. And watch that first round again, and just watch the first round, especially the first round. Just watch the first round again. That this is the first time that he's competed. It's his father's dream for him, and look at how he performed in that first round. It's unreal. It's like one of the most inspiring things. You know, that's why I love the sport, man. Is the inspiration, like inspiring performances. They've been making me feel pretty bad about myself lately, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know. This is the first time I felt like I was well, not the first time. It's not true. First time in a long time where I felt like I was pursuing something bigger, you know, and something that I'm actually uniquely suited for versus living the life that everyone else lives, you know. So this channel really matters to me. I want you guys to understand that too. Like, this channel, my social media, all that stuff, like, shit matters to me a lot because it represents a larger pursuit. The thing that I lost when I lost my company, basically, is like this. That's how this feels, is like pursuing something bigger. It's slow. It's frustrating how slow it grows, but I believe in the outcome. So it just is what it is. But when you think about Khabib's first round, like how big that was and how he performed. First of all, dude, those leg kicks that he ate and then just kept going forward. Do you understand what that feels? You know, I guarantee he's hobbling around today. I mean, for sure. You know, now that he's outside the octagon, I guarantee he's hobbling around. Like, you can't eat you can't eat one kick to the back of your calf from Justin Gaethje without limping around afterwards, and he just walked right through it. But like, the fact that he just stayed on Justin the way that he did, where he wasn't going to give Justin an inch to breathe, and then watching it again and thinking through what what he's fighting for on his side it's just inspiring, man. I encourage you guys to all go do that. Anyway, so let's talk about Conor, though, because this is, again, the point of the video is this. You got two GOATs. Khabib and Conor, both the GOAT. One is the GOAT in MMA. Like, the MMA GOAT, no one's going to convince me otherwise, okay? We can have this GSP, John Jones conversation. The only way you were going to talk about John Jones is if he clears out the heavyweight division. He might do that. If he does that, sure, GOAT. I will let that be weighted heavier than the fact that he pissed hot 87 times, okay? But until then, Khabib is the MMA GOAT, UFC GOAT. Conor, with that tweet, which he said, I don't need to read it. He basically said, incredible performance, happy retirement, I will carry on, condolences again for your father, to you and your family for your father, love the McGregors. Right, so like he said so it's clearly Conor writing it. Conor definitely wrote that tweet, and then he signed it from his family, right? Now, what is that? Okay, first of all, it's a super classy move. I mean, let's just first of all say that, super classy. But also, what does that tell us, right? Like, what does it say about Conor that is his reaction, and that he would send that to Khabib? It means Conor's playing the fight game. Okay, Conor was always playing the fight game. So Khabib is from Dagestan. Okay. If you watch Mix Molly's stuff, which if you have not watched Mix Molly's videos, Fire and Ice and Culture Clash, just as soon as you're done with this, immediately go over there and do that, because it talks about Khabib's culture, and it talks about all the stuff between Conor and him, and watch Foundry of Champions. Just basically watch everything he's ever done about Dagestan or Khabib, and in Dagestani culture, and especially in the culture that Khabib grew up in, like, a guy can't stick his finger in your chest without you responding. Like, this is, it cannot happen. That's why when they were in the press conferences, Conor was throwing all that shit at him. When they were, before their fight, and Conor was throwing all kinds of stuff at him. The only thing that got under Khabib's skin was when Conor baited him about not coming off the bus when Conor got there through the dolly and was trying to get him to come off the bus and fight. The only thing that got under Khabib's skin, all of it was just rolled right off Khabib's back. Like, he just was like, and he laughed. Conor couldn't get under his skin. That's why Conor looked so ineffective in that build-up versus every other one where he got under their skin. But when he baited him about not coming off the bus, Khabib couldn't let that slide, and that's all about Dagestani culture that he grew up in, which is you can't ever let a man stick his finger in your chest without you breaking it off. If you put your finger in my chest, I'm going to grab it. I'm going to break it off your hand. And if you have a problem with that, I'm going to rip your arm off your body. If you have a problem with that, then we're going to fight to the death. I mean, it's, basically how it goes in Dagestan. And, that explains why Conor's pre-fight antics, throwing the dolly through the window, all the stuff that he said. I mean, dude, Conor and Khabib were cool. Before they got on when Conor was a featherweight, they were cool. They were acquaintances that were cool, right? They became enemies when they became competitors, right? Now, Conor went all in, trying to get in his head. And the way that he went all in, as far as Khabib is concerned, I'm sure I don't know. I don't know how Khabib feels now after his career is over, Conor just saying what he said. But certainly of the two, Khabib was the one that took that, like, oh, this guy's my enemy for life. And that just comes back to Dagestani culture. Like, Conor didn't just stick a finger in his chest. Conor stuck everything he had in his chest, and then Khabib, beat him, but then he snapped and jumped over the fence. He's like, beating Conor is not enough. Now I need to beat up everybody in his crew, So like, to Khabib, the beef is very real, right? And would have stayed hot and real forever. He's made that very clear. Conor to come out on Twitter and say what he said to Khabib, it means Conor was playing the fight game all along. As soon as Khabib retires and he's no longer a competitor to Conor, the beef, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter to him anymore. The beef was all about hyping fights, and it was all about competition inside of the UFC. Khabib's not in the UFC anymore. Conor has no reason to beef with him. Okay, so what that demonstrates is Conor is the GOAT. Absolutely no question, the GOAT of the fight game, Okay, the game. There's the reason why it's called the game is because they're playing a game. Now, Khabib doesn't play the game, right? Now, Khabib became the GOAT of that particular fight game because he was able to not play, Like, Conor threw the absolute most alpha not alpha, the apex predator game at him. Like, just anyone would have wilted under that. And Khabib didn't even move. So he certainly won that round. But the fact that Conor, clearly, it was all a game to him. He's the king of the fight. It just, again, I would have said that he was the GOAT of the fight game anyway, which, there's nothing but, there's so many data points to back that up that it's kind of unbelievable. But that fact, where he just reveals at the end that even with Khabib, his most bitter rival, that he said more shit about than anybody in the entire world ever, the fact that he revealed it was all part of the game, he's the GOAT, man, of the fight game. Khabib's the best fighter. Khabib's the GOAT of the UFC. Of the fight game, you got Conor McGregor and you got Floyd Mayweather in boxing. Of UFC, Conor's the GOAT of the UFC fight game. And then you got Floyd Mayweather on the other side. And Muhammad Ali. Because it's incredible. It just, like, the fact that none of it really mattered to Conor is amazing. It makes me like him that much more. Because honestly, like, that's giving Khabib respect yesterday, anything other than that is just stupid. Nate Diaz is the only one who did anything other than give Khabib respect yesterday, because Khabib's a respectful person that's the thing, is like a person who throws nothing but joy and respect out into the world. When people throw negativity at them, it just reflects poorly on them. That's why the whole thing reflected so poorly on Conor. It was the first time where the fight game reflected poorly on Conor. It's because Khabib won't play. Khabib is a good man. Khabib has principles. Khabib will only ever have principles. He's never going to predatorily, try to get in someone's head. He'll defend himself, and then he'll obviously win the fight against any man in the world that's anywhere even remotely near his weight. But he won't play the psychological game because he's a good man. And so, Conor deep down is a good man, but his competitive nature and his ability to use psychological warfare, giving him so much success previously, is more, the competitive nature is more important to him than his principles. And that's not the case with Khabib. His principles are the most important thing. And it doesn't make Conor a bad man. It doesn't. It just means that he's the most ultra competitive apex predator maniac ever. He's the GOAT of the fight game. And Khabib is the GOAT of the fights and of the UFC. Also, again, Khabib with the principles. I just want to say this again. I do believe he's going to come back. I do. If he was 36, I would say he's done. If he was 36, I would say he's done. Right? But 32, he's not going to be able to. He's a man. Okay? Yes, he has principles. Yes, he has principles. And yes, he said that it's his mother who asked him not to fight. And I'm telling you, you have to look past just like Khabib is a man with principles. Khabib will not do what his mom asked him not to do. Saying, like, correct in the short term. And what I'm telling you is, think what they're going through. Like, they're just people, right? There's no one who's unsusceptible to emotional reactions to things. His mom is in mourning. He is in mourning, right? And a year from now, they won't be. It'll always hurt. It'll always hurt, but they won't be in like direct grief like they are right now. And he'll be training with his people. He'll be staying busy. He'll be in amazing shape. He'll feel like he's in his prime still. He'll know he can beat anyone out there. Someone will emerge, and it'll look like a challenge that Khabib wants to take. And then he'll go talk to his mom. He'll ask her for permission. She'll give it to him. He'll come back and fight. That is what is going to happen. That is what is going to happen. I will bet my reputation on that. That sometime over the next 3 years, he'll come back. 4 years maybe. He'll come back. But assuming that there is a worthy adversary for him to come back to fight. They need, like, if the belt kind of bounces around, like, he's not gonna, if he was the 205-pound GOAT, he's not gonna come back to fight Jan Blachowicz, okay? Like, he's not gonna come back to fight Jan Blachowicz, right? And if he was the GOAT at 135, he's not coming back to fight Peter Yan yet, right? Someone needs to emerge at 155 and be dominant for him to come back. And someone can emerge and be very dominant over a 3-year period, and he'll still only be 35. Right? Think about him in the last 3 years. Right? He won the title, then he ran through Justin, then he ran through Conor, then he ran through Justin, then he ran through Gaethje. Right? So he won, and then he had 3 title defenses, and he's for all intents and purposes, considered the GOAT. I mean, obviously there are guys who had bigger, longer resumes in terms of title defenses, but like, there are basically, I mean, outside of Tony, there are no comers that he didn't crush. Now, I will say this: if Tony goes on a run, that's probably your best bet to get him back, assuming that a GSP fight isn't there. If a GSP fight was there, Ali Abdelaziz would have already been talking to him about it, But I think our best bet of getting him back is if Tony wins his next fight and then wins another fight. And so, like, inside of 2 years, because Tony will be 39 in 2 years. But Khabib will have time to heal. He'll have time to talk to his mom. He'll still be in incredible shape. He'll be 34. And Tony is the only unfinished business that he has. But Tony has to win 2 fights. And then win the title. Which he could very easily do. He could very easily do that. Very easily do that. Because he's not going to have to fight Justin again. And think about Tony versus Dustin Poirier or versus Conor. He matches up very well against those guys. He really does. So, anyway, that's what I've got for today. Conor is the GOAT of the fight game. Khabib is the GOAT of the UFC. And he's the best all-around fighter of all time. Plain and simple. And I can't wait to see what happens next, man.